Hi, so I, 25F, recently did something to completely destroy my sister's future career as an Instagram influencer, and my family is mad right now. They're actually even threatening to sue me. So I really need all the help I can get now. For context, I haven't exactly been in touch with my family in the past. I got kicked out of the house when I was 17, for a stupid mistake that I had made. But I guess I was on thin ice with them anyway, because I hate to admit it, but I had sort of become a teen delinquent of sorts. I don't really like talking about this phase of my life, but it's necessary for me to bring it up here. So here it is. I kind of fell in with the wrong kind of crowd when I was around 15, and I started doing everything that was illegal. You name it: smoking, underage, drinking, and even pot. I would sneak out of my house almost every other day and sneak back in the morning. My grades started dropping drastically because I hardly got any sleep, and my parents found out about everything. Eventually they tried to punish me. They grounded me for weeks, but I would still make my way outside to hang out with my so-called friends, and grounding me only made everything more thrilling because I knew that I was not supposed to be doing any of this, and yet, I was. My sister, Kelly, 21F, was practically an angel in comparison, because even though she wasn't doing anything special, at least she was following the rules and not behaving like me. She was still a brat, but in other ways, and much less of a miscreant. Anyway, this behavior of mine continued for almost 2 years, and my parents tried everything to stop me, but I thought that I was being cool, so I never listened to them. I was flunking out of school, and my family was really disappointed in me, but my parents still did not send me away, because they did not want anyone to find out that I had turned into a juvenile delinquent. And then, when I had just turned 17, my friends and I were out getting drunk one night, and on a dare, I decided that it would be a great idea to vandalize a cop car parked nearby. Of course, it wasn't. We got caught, and that's how I ended up in juvie for 6 months. That was a big mistake, and it really sobered me up, and made me realize how I was completely screwing up my own life just for the validation from my so-called friends who had bailed on me the second things got serious. Anyway, that was a wake-up call for me, but unfortunately, by then, my parents had decided that they didn't want anything to do with me anymore. I can't exactly blame them, but I also think it was not cool of them to kick me out of the house right after I came back from juvie. I had already had enough time there. I didn't need this. But I couldn't stop them either, and so, just like that, I was out. After that, I had nowhere to go because most of my relatives did not want anything to do with me. My friends had actually turned out to be a pretty bad influence on me, so I was definitely not going to them. That left my grandparents, but the problem was that my maternal grandparents lived out of state and my dad's parents lived in the suburbs, which was a huge distance away from my school and everything that I knew. However, I didn't have any options, and I didn't want to go to the cops to report the fact that my parents had kicked me out even though I was a minor. I had developed a fear of the law after the run-in with the cops the first time, so that was one reason that I did not report my parents, and on top of that, I wasn't even sure if anything could be done about the situation because, at the time I had come back from juvie, I was just 3 months away from turning 18. So with no other option left, I decided to go to my grandparents and ask them to help me out. Luckily, they took me in, but that didn't mean that life got easy for me all of a sudden. I missed my parents terribly, especially considering the fact that they hadn't even spoken to me while I was in juvie. I was completely alone there. And my grandparents weren't exactly nice to me either. They were strict disciplinarians, but I guess I needed that back then. Anyway, I got depressed, because I had to switch high schools and repeat my senior year because I had missed a huge chunk of it while I was away in juvie, and to add to that, I was really behind because I had been flanking out of all my classes as well. I had no friends, my parents didn't speak to me, and my grandparents had only taken me in so that I wouldn't end up homeless, but there was no love and affection for me. Naturally, I got pretty lonely, but I worked really hard. I got into a semi-decent college and tried my very best to turn my life around. I took out a student loan, worked my way through college, and as soon as I graduated, I thanked my grandparents by starting to pay them back for everything that they had done for me. And I got incredibly lucky too, because about 2 years ago, I was offered a job as a graphic designer in a pretty successful firm. I figured out in my senior year that designing was what I wanted to do with my life, and not to brag, but I'm pretty good at it. I have worked pretty hard in the past, and I had applied to this firm with almost no hope of getting hired, but thankfully, I did, and while I love my work, it's also a huge bonus that I get paid pretty well too. I'm pretty young, but I'm doing well for myself, and I'm proud of how far I've come. The only thing that continued to bug me, even after so many years had passed, was the fact that I hadn't been able to make amends with my parents. It's not that I hadn't reached out to him. I had tried to speak with him several times over the past couple of years, but I didn't have any luck. It was quite understandable because even though it was a stupid mistake of mine that got me cut off and kicked out, I still felt that it was a bit too harsh of them to do this to me because after all, I was just 17. I was a total idiot and they could have forgiven me, as my parents, or at least they could have tried to get back in touch with me after I started, but that never happened, so I learned to make my peace with it. And then, out of the blue, they suddenly reached out to me a week ago. My mom found me on Instagram and sent me a message, saying that she would really like to invite me over for dinner so I could reconcile with the family because it's been a really long time and everyone has thought about it. They really do miss me and they think that I've been punished enough. I was thrilled to read that message and I instantly responded by accepting the invitation. I had no idea what was in store for me, or the fact that they had any ulterior motives because I was just happy that I was going to have a chance at fixing things with my family again. The next day, even when I went over for dinner, everything was great. I got them flowers and chocolates, we drank together, and I filled them in on what was going on in my life. I even thanked them for inviting me and got a bit emotional while talking about how I had felt when I received the message from my mom. I thought that everything was going well, but then when we got to dessert, my parents started acting pretty fishy. They started telling me about my sister's influencer career, and how Kelly had managed to garner almost 10,000 followers, but now, the count wasn't increasing and it had become stagnant. I didn't know what they were building up to and I even looked at Kelly to figure out what was going on, but then, they finally dropped the bomb and told me that since they had found out that I was doing pretty well for myself right now, they wanted me to finance my sister's luxury lifestyle since that was her niche as an influencer, but right now, she was not making enough money to afford the kind of lifestyle that she wanted. So they wanted to go with the whole fake it till you make it approach and make it look like she could totally afford fancy luxurious vacations, and other stuff, but that would be all on my money. And while they were talking to me about it, I realized that this is why they had contacted me after so many years. This was the catch. They wanted me to use my hard-earned money to fund my sister's lifestyle, so she could pretend that she had a really cool and happening life on social media and propel her career forward. It was extremely humiliating that this is why they had invited me over for dinner because they couldn't afford to do it themselves, or maybe they just didn't want to throw away their money over something as pointless as this. Either way, they were being really casual about it and my mom even said that if I really wanted to make it up to them, this is how I could do it. So they were actually serious about it, and that's all that I needed to know. I finished dessert, I told them that I would need some time to think about it and I behaved as if everything was normal while I was leaving. But I was actually furious on the inside and as soon as I got home, I typed out an angry post about what had just happened and put it up on social media, tagging Kelly and my parents. I even set my account privacy settings to public. I forwarded my post to as many people as I could, and I told them to take it forward, and within a couple of hours, Kelly had started blowing up my phone. It was exactly what I had expected. She was mad and started asking me if I was crazy, told me that I was ruining her life and career, and told me to delete the post immediately, but I didn't. I just blocked her and let her stay up for the rest of the night while I went to sleep. The next morning, when I woke up, I realized that a lot of people who knew Kelly personally, but didn't like her, had reached out to me personally to congratulate me on what I had done because now, her follower count has started dropping rapidly. She already only had 10,000 to begin with, which is not a very high number, and when I checked, it was around 9,000. Now, almost 1 week has passed and I still haven't deleted that post and it's at 7,000 at the moment. So she has lost almost 3,000 followers, all because of the post that I had made against her. And of course, she is extremely upset about it and so are my parents because they believe that this was totally uncalled for. Apparently, my post gained a lot of traction because according to my family, girls from her high school and old friends had already been extremely jealous of her when she started blowing up on IG. They were just looking for an excuse to drag her down and my post had given them exactly that. These people had shared and reshared the post and that's how Kelly's decline in followers actually started, so now they're holding me responsible for it. I don't buy the whole situation, that people who are jealous of her are doing this to get back at her. I'm sure there must be something deeper, but anyway, right now, I'm only just worried about what they're threatening to do to me. So far, I have been ignoring all the messages that they have been sending me, demanding that I take down that post. A couple of hours ago, they sent me a screenshot of them speaking to one of my dad's friends, who happens to be a lawyer, and they have told me that they are going to be suing me if I don't take that post down. Right now, that post has become a bone of contention for us because I think taking that post down would send the wrong message, like I'm scared of them or something. But then again, I'm not exactly sure if they really can sue me for this. If they can, then I'll be in big trouble and I want to avoid that anyhow. Apart from that, I'm also really concerned about whether I'm doing the right thing or not, because the way they were speaking about the whole Instagram influencer thing, it was pretty evident that Kelly and my parents have decided that this is going to be her career in the future. So essentially, I am kind of ruining her career by exposing her like this. And on top of that, there's also the fact that initially, it had been my mistake that had gotten me kicked out of the house, and I feel like I need to be grateful to my parents, but again, the way they got me to visit so sneakily doesn't sit right with me. They could have been honest and upfront with me, but they pretended that they were willing to forgive me, only if I bought it from them. That's what my biggest gripe with the situation is right now, and I don't know if I'm entitled to feeling that way. So what do you guys think? Ida for making a post against my sister and my parents and bringing down her influencer career? Edit. For those people asking what exactly I had posted, here it is. Hi, as a lot of you guys might have known, I haven't been in touch with my family for the past couple of years after I got kicked out when I was 17. I don't blame my parents for it. I was a problem child and a juvenile delinquent and had caused them a lot of trouble and heartache. I deserve that, but in the past few years, I have improved my life and changed as a person. I have even tried to get back in touch with them several times, but they have never entertained me. And I haven't taken offense at that either, even though I do think that they could have forgiven me at some point because, after all, I was just 17 and a huge idiot. Anyway, recently, they reached out to me under the pretext of forgiving me, but when I got to their house, they started telling me that I had to fund Kelly's lifestyle so she could pretend that she could afford everything that she wanted to show off about on social media and grow as an influencer. Basically, they didn't want to invest in her, and she doesn't work, nor does she earn enough money from her influence, her career at the moment. But instead of doing something about it, they decided to emotionally manipulate me into financing her instead, and I think that's pretty much the lowest thing that they could have done, especially when I had come to them in good faith, believing that maybe they would finally forgive me after so many years of no contact. I just want you guys to know about this so that you guys realize that her lifestyle has been based on a lie. Don't buy any of it because she's not selling the truth, that's for sure. Just like I didn't buy my parents' forgiveness by financing her luxurious lifestyle, which was pretty nasty of them to even try. This is all a farce, and I'm more than happy to be exposing her right now, even though she's my own sister. This was the caption, and the picture that I had posted wrong with it was a family photo from ages ago. Most of the comments so far have been quite supportive, but I've also received a lot of hate comments from Kelly's friends. That doesn't matter to me though, I've only been standing up for the truth. And it's not like I've lied about anything in my post, it's all the truth. I haven't even tried to make myself look like the good guy here. I have admitted that I used to be a pretty problematic child back then, and I can't blame my parents for kicking me out. I have already received a bunch of comments saying that they can't exactly sue me for this as long as everything that I have mentioned in the post is accurate and honest. But I've spoken to my friends and they have told me that they can still file a lawsuit for defamation or something like that because my post has significantly affected my sister's follower count, which is technically her career right now. So they actually can take me to court and try to disprove that any conversation that I have spoken about in my post had ever taken place, and then, it's just going to be my word against theirs. So that's what I'm concerned about right now. Besides, given my history, they might even be able to succeed by bringing up my teen years, especially my stint in juvie, and making me look like the bad guy who wants to get revenge on them somehow by spreading lies about Kelly and my parents. Update 1. Hi, so I decided to cut my losses and take that post down. Because there is no telling what they might do. If they actually went through with the lawsuit, it might become very lengthy whether I like it or not. I can't exactly erase my past. They can definitely try to make it seem like I was trying to ruin my sister's future as an influencer on purpose with that post, and that I had been lying about them trying to get me to fund my sister's lifestyle, making it seem like I was only trying to ruin her reputation and career, and I don't want to waste my money on lawyers right now. Also, when I visited them for dinner, it was just me, my parents, and Kelly. There were no witnesses to confirm what I was saying, neither was there any recording, and in their messages, they had been clever enough to make sure that they were not even implying anything, since all they had said was to take the post down, no mention of whether whatever I had spoken about was true or not. My grandparents would obviously not be helpful in this case, and I'm pretty sure that they would side with my family. In fact, I'm guessing that they are the people who told my parents that I'm doing well for myself now, which is how they found out that I'm earning a decent amount of money, and that's why they approached me. I can't exactly cut my grandparents out of my life, not that there is much to do there anyway. But I have been paying them back little by little, so I'm gonna continue doing that, and I already don't really interact with them much, so I'm gonna stick to that. I took the post down yesterday, unblocked everybody, and I told them that I had taken the post down and now, I do not want any drama from their end. After I had unblocked them and sent that message, Kelly immediately replied to that message and sent me a voice note, cursing at me for almost a minute and a half and saying that she knew for a fact that I was doing this just because I was jealous of her. And that it didn't matter that I had taken that post down because she had already lost a bunch of followers. She told me that I was lucky that our parents did not want to take this to court and wanted to end this year, because if it had been up to her, she would have made sure that I paid for this. I could have ignored it, but just to be cheeky, I replied to her saying that I was thankful that she didn't have the money to take me to court herself, and ultimately, it was our parents who decided what was to be done because otherwise, I would be in big trouble. And then, before she could reply to that, I blocked her again. So that's that, and I really hope that they don't reach out to me again and we can just put an end to this. Update 2. Hey, so something pretty interesting happened recently. It's been a week since I took my post down, and a couple of days ago, one of my acquaintances from high school reached out to me to ask if I had deleted that post. So I had to tell her that I had indeed archived it, and I also set my account back to private, so I found it pretty intriguing that she had decided to ask me about it, even though she doesn't even follow me. I asked her why she was interested in the post, and she went on to tell me that she wanted to read about it herself because she had been a little too late to hop onto the bandwagon. We got to talking after I explained to her exactly why I had to take that post down, because I was pretty sure that a lot of people had questions about this and I hadn't yet addressed this publicly. Anyway, we were talking to each other about this, and that's how I found out that the reason my post had so much traction, and my sister had lost so many followers because of this, was not because people had shared that post out of jealousy. It was out of resentment, and mostly, it was just to put Kelly in her place because apparently, she had become a total pain after gaining a certain amount of followers on social media. I don't know how she got here. I guess last year one of her pictures went kind of viral and got a lot of likes. So that got to her head and she started clicking more pictures. That way, looking really aesthetic, in expensive locations, wearing a lot of makeup and flaunting luxury brands through her clothing and accessories. Some of it was borrowed, some of it was rented, but obviously nobody can figure any of that out from a picture itself. She was showing off a lifestyle that she didn't have, and you know how people on social media lap that kind of stuff up. So that's how her followers started growing, and she was quite active as well, which is how she ended up with 10,000. And as soon as she started growing, she started dropping her friends like hot potatoes. She developed an attitude problem and started fighting with all her friends, putting them down as if she was actually living the life that she was trying to portray. Even though in reality, she was still living with her parents, hadn't worked a day since she had graduated, and was pretty much just good for nothing. So naturally, there was a lot of resentment against her, and that's why her friends decided to share my post a lot and make sure that everybody found out what kind of a fake and shallow person my sister actually was. I can't say that I'm surprised. I had guessed it in the beginning when my parents had said that the only reason my post was getting a lot of traction and attention was because my sister happens to have a lot of jealous girls who hate her, and I was just playing right into their hands. I guess I had mentioned in my previous post that I knew that it was probably not out of jealousy that these women hated her, and I was right. After speaking to this acquaintance, I found out that pretty much everybody from our high school knows what kind of a person Kelly is. Even though she used to be pretty bratty before, now she has lost even the few loyal friends that she used to have. So that was pretty interesting for me to find out, but unfortunately, I'm still not putting that post back up. It's just not worth it, the drama and the trouble. I would much rather let it go now. A lot of people in the comments of my previous update had said that I'm being cowardly, but I really don't think that that's the case. I had just weighed the pros and cons of the situation and decided that it was not worth it to keep that post up and let this go to court, because I'm sure that eventually, if I hadn't deleted it, Kelly would have definitely talked our parents into filing a lawsuit for defamation against me. And like I have already explained several times by now, I have no concrete evidence to prove that what I was saying was true, but they do. Even though records are sealed, everyone knows that I had been sent to juvenile detention when I was a teenager. So it would be much easier for them to prove that I was a problematic person, speaking out of my tongue to bring down my sister, than for me to prove that they were in the wrong here. I don't think that I was being cowardly, I just think that I was being practical, but again, to each their own. Anyway, the bottom line is that for me, this drama is done now. But I don't want anybody else to think that I'm a coward, so I guess I'm gonna post a public statement about why I had to take that post down. It's not exactly about what people think about me, it's just that I don't want them to think that people can do whatever they want and get away with it. Lucky for me, at least this time, I'm gonna have the proof that they threatened to take legal action against me, which is why I had to take that post down. I have that screenshot, so I'm just gonna post that. Update 3. So, like I had said in my previous update, I put up a post earlier today. I posted the screenshot of the text that I had received, saying that if I did not delete my post about Kelly and my parents, then they would take legal action against me. In the caption, I mentioned that this was the reason why I had taken my post down, because I did not have any concrete evidence and I could not let this go to court, because that would lead to a lot of my money getting wasted, not just on the settlement, but also on a lawyer. This is why I had decided to take my post down after a lot of deliberation, but I also mentioned that this was, in no way, me admitting that I was guilty or that I was defeated. It was important for me to let people know what the real situation was so that they wouldn't come to their own conclusions and definitely wouldn't get to believe that people could say or do whatever they wanted and get away with it. I ended the post there. I didn't want to drag it out too much and create more drama. I hadn't expected this one to blow up the same way that the first one had, but surprisingly, even this one got a lot of attention from a lot of people. They were very supportive of me, and nobody mentioned Kelly directly, but we all knew who we were talking about. Most of the comments were incredibly supportive and I really appreciate that. And it has been several hours, so I'm sure that Kelly and my parents must have found out about the post as well by now. But they haven't reached out to me to warn me against anything or throw a tantrum about my post yet, so I'm guessing that they're gonna let this one go. Anyway, it's not like they can do anything about this post because it doesn't even mention them directly, and at least here, I won't have any trouble proving anything. But whatever, I have said whatever it is that I have had to say, and I don't have any expectations from my family anymore. I guess I should have stopped expecting anything from them the day they kicked me out of the house itself. I hadn't ever considered this, but there must have been a reason why I didn't have to be such a troubled kid. And I don't mean to play the victim. I'm fully aware of the fact that what I had done in the past was really wrong and I deserved the punishment, but there is also the fact that my parents had never been attentive enough to me. It was always about my sister, so naturally, I acted out. I'm not saying that that's the only way I could have dealt with the situation. There must have been much better ways, but unfortunately, that's the way I chose because I was an idiot. Even after finding out what I was doing, they were never gentle with me, they never tried to correct me, but would only get mad at me, telling me I was a disappointment and that they wished that I had never even been born. They would constantly compare me to my sister even after finding out how much trouble I was in, which just egged me on even more. I didn't mention this earlier in my post because honestly, I don't want to sound like I was whining about how my parents had treated me and like I was trying to justify my behavior. But now, I think it's necessary for me to bring it up. I haven't ever spoken about these things to anyone else, mostly because it's been too personal to share, but now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I'm getting a lot of stuff off my chest. I honestly feel better now, and I don't think I want my family back in my life at any point in the future. I'm happy with my life as it is now.